go into Islam, which gets a little bit too ferocious. So something a little bit quietist, pacifistic, and that's found in this Krishna and this Buddhism thing, and also a process of enlightenment. So both the religions, Buddhism and Krishna consciousness, which probably influence each other, are pre-Christian. So neither of them developed after Christianity, but rather before Christianity. So I think you can make connections, though I've never seen anyone do it in any sort of systematic fashion. Well, the literature that came first were the Vedas, as we said, which were sort of like a combination of priestly purity regulations, plus a certain amount of mythological insight. The Upanishads continue that in another period of early Hindu history, which we're not dealing with here. And the last part of the literature is this poem that we have here, this Mahabharata. Now, in these previous literatures, we have the things like I was telling you about Brahman, which is more or less of a God-like idea, the external God, the external infinity or timelessness, and the internal. They divided it into those two things. And they felt that once you found the internal one, you could move into the external one. Now, to some extent, you need a teacher to tell you this. But he quotes in my introduction some of the Upanishads where some of these ideas are given. If we ask where is Brahman, the spirit of the universe, the answer is given in the Kina Upanishad. He is seen in nature, in the wonder of a flash of lightning, comes to the soul in the wonder of a flash of vision. Then you get the strange relationship of Brahman to Atman. Brahman is all, Atman is Brahman. Atman the self has four conditions, blah, 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 blah. So basically, all of these things to some extent are pre-Bhagavad Gita in this previous literature, particularly in the Upanishads. In the times of the Veda, the Vedic times, if you like, were times of action. And of all human actions, the sacrifice of the gods was the most important. So the Vedas, which are pre-Upanishad type literature, deal with the sacrifices and also some of these other concepts, the priesthood and things of that kind. Okay, the Mahabharata. I can never spell it, so I have it here in the book. I'll put it here for you. Now that is sort of like a cycle of poems, like the Greek literature, Homer. In that sense, Homer may even be earlier than this Mahabharata. But it's really a civil war between different parties in the Indian culture sphere, but also represented as the struggle between spiritual forces, good and evil, and so on. It's got 18 books. And in the middle of this, we get this, what's called the Bhagavad Gita. And that's just part of the poem, but it's extracted. And what is it? It's a discussion, a philosophical discussion. And here I think actually the influence has gone west to east. With Alexander, the Greek literature coming into India, maybe even Homer coming into India, influencing these epics. Alexander comes in the 4th century. These things are written in about the 3rd century. And particularly the Bhagavad Gita has the form of a what? You who have taken philosophy. Platonic dialogue. How many are familiar with the Platonic dialogue? Anybody? 1. Who else? 2. 3. Well, any of you want to tell me what a Platonic dialogue looks like for the benefit of the rest of the class?
Asking questions.
Yeah, it's two people talking usually, sometimes three or four. Something like this, right? In fact, this looks like a Platonic dialogue. And I have an idea that probably the two either influence each other back and forth. Plato was very influenced by Indian philosophical ideas. You know, Plato, the Greek philosopher that we base most of our Western intellectual beginnings on. I know you think this is all nonsense, but in fact, this is really the kind of thing, if you're a civilized person, that distinguishes you from being the tax collector, the garbage person, and the insurance agent. You know, you don't expect to go to your tax collector or your tax preparer, rather, or your insurance agent, and start talking about Plato. But in fact, you know, more than any other thing that would make it look like you went to college would be, you know, something about Socrates and Plato. Because that is the basic ornament of the beginning of Western civilized thought. Now, we don't have to agree with Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, but particularly Socrates and Plato, you know, make it look like you've become a little cultured. So I wouldn't put your nose up totally at this. It's worth at least being able to talk a little about it.